So, you said you want to drop a bomb, like...
Yeah, I've got a bomb to drop, and it's a very uncomfortable bomb to drop.
Right.
But I just feel like my meeting with her was not something that I enjoyed.
Really?
No. It was not something that I enjoyed, and yeah, I don't want to cry.
You okay?
Yeah, she didn't see my family. She didn't try to chat to me. She didn't even text me and say like, hey, like, I'm in your city. Like, why all that extra stuff? So were you putting on a show, sister? But I do remember one line that she said. She was like, yeah, I told Timmy, like, go for a dark-skinned girl. Like, America loves that. And, you know, he says that. He's even let me walk to my car by myself at 2 a.m. in the morning. Downtown LA.
Not downtown LA. Guys, welcome back to the MURAD MERALI podcast. It has been a minute, and hopefully you guys are all keeping well. We have a very special guest here. We are in the presence of a winner of Love Island, and we have Zeta here, guys. How are you doing, baby? Baby.
Love when you say that.
Listen, it's been a minute. I said it in a hot second.
Yeah.
How's life?
Life is great.
Life's good. You look good.
Do I?
Yes, babes. You look good, babes.
Thanks,
Well, congratulations on winning.
Thank you.
I feel like you deserved it.
Thank
I feel like when I was watching your season, like, no shade, no tea, I don't know anybody's name but yours. When it comes to your season, you were the only girl that I knew, and I just felt like from day one, you were giving Love Island, you were saying something that we had never seen.
I mean, I don't...
Timmy, you little liar!
Nurture. She's just yelling at me, I don't know why.
Are you running game now? Is that what you're up to? Joker.
Yeah.
In a hot minute, you revitalized the show. And I feel like it gave me pure interest.
Yeah.
And I was just like, Zeta, you can't beat her, babe.
You can't
beat
My
her.
mum was like, man, Zeta, you've got a slogan.
Yeah.
So you can't beat her. I was like, I love that.
So your mum was loving it.
Yeah. She was loving it, yeah.
How are you? How's everything going?
I'm great, honestly. But, yeah. I mean, I just feel like I'm about to drop a bomb
Right.
on...
I mean, it's not easy. But you know what? Life's not easy.
Yeah.
Life is difficult.
Yeah.
Life puts you in positions that you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
And it's all about powering through.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can really just overcome. But I'm loving this outfit.
Oh,
you look
yeah.
really gorgeous.
Thank you. I really wanted to like start adding more colour.
Right, not Austin.
I don't...
Like,
I mean-
it's too much.
Yeah, because I don't
No,
really...
you look good though. You look really good.
Oh, stop.
Where's the outfit from? Do you know? Not me
Yeah.
putting you on the spot.
No, I know. I just don't want to say it.
Scream it.
Because I need a check.
And you came correct. The jewellery
Do you know
as
what?
well, the
I'm
makeup,
gonna put you in
faces
my pocket, take you
beat.
home with me, pull you
Zeta,
out whenever
you're-
I need a compliment.
I just feel like you're a Love Island legend.
Stop.
You really are. Like,
Stop.
when I watched it, I was like, finally, there's something going on with Love Island USA.
Just with USA.
I think in the whole franchise.
Is
I feel like you
it?
came, you're also from London
Yeah.
as well. And your background is... Where's your
Egyptian and Ghanaian.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you're half Middle Eastern, half West African as well.
Yeah.
What a mix, man.
Yeah.
Do you speak Arabic?
I know some words, but I
Like
don't speak Arabic.
shway shway. Like
Yeah, exactly. Like them little ones.
Yeah, not me trying to speak to you in Arabic and you'd be like, what's going on?
Scratch his head.
So, you said you want to drop a bomb. Like,
Yeah, I've got a bomb to drop, and it's a very uncomfortable bomb to drop.
Right.
But I just feel like the truth
right,
shall set you free.
right.
And I need to tell the truth. It's just been really, really weighing on me. And I've just given it so much time to hopefully see if things will change, things will progress. And it just seems like it keeps coming back to the same
Right,
answer.
right.
And so at this point, I'm like, I've got to be free. And I
Right.
feel like all the people that are watching this are going to be like, I'm so happy that she told the truth and freed herself
Right.
rather than holding on to something that was like just not it.
Listen, it's like you're in a river and you're fighting with the rocks, but you should just be going with the water.
Babes,
That's all it is.
just go with the water.
And it's very hard to do that in life.
It's strange though.
Yeah, because you feel like you have a manual of what life actually is.
Exactly.
And then it throws a huge span in the works and
And you're
everything's
like-
gone left. And you're just like, how do you even cope or live? And there's no way for you to navigate life. And it can be very difficult. So what is this
Yeah.
bomb that you're going to drop?
Yeah.
And also, how are you feeling?
Yeah. The bomb is that Timmy and I are no longer together.
Okay.
So there's no more Zimmy.
No more Zimmy.
No more Zimmy.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the bomb. There you have it.
Ooh, it's a big bomb.
Yeah, we're no longer together, and the storyline
Right.
is really what I would like to get out,
Right.
because I truly give about my fans
Right.
and my supporters.
Right.
Like, they are absolutely everything to me. So
Yeah, I feel like you've got, you're one of the few islanders who came out, you've got this blog as well, and you
Yeah.
write about your stuff, and it seems that you're very dedicated
Yeah.
to your fans. Like,
Very
I don't
much.
see many islanders who come out who are very much like, I want to be as interactive
Yeah.
with my audience. And I feel like you definitely are.
Yeah.
That is one thing that I definitely have to give you. So,
Thank
And the
you.
blog, you're consistent with it as
every
well.
Monday.
Every Monday, it's out there, and the links will be in the bio below, guys. For you guys check it out. But I think that that is definitely something that is great to see, especially in a literary form where you're writing. Something that people don't do as much anymore. It's more
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
about pictures and videos, but rather than any type of descriptive books. So I feel like that is definitely good for you.
Exactly. I'm so happy that you said that too, because I feel like when I started my blog, I was just like, I feel like I'm going in a dying industry, really, because people don't really like to sit down and read anything.
Right. So it's different.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to
Yeah.
to see.
But the people that do, boy, do they love to read. Like, they really love it. And I've just been so connected with especially them. My Zeta Confidential family is literally like my family. Like, they're people that I do Zoom meetings with.
Right. I mean, that's
I want to meet in person. Like, they're people, like usually with supporters, you're like, okay, like there's that line, you don't cross it. And with them, it's like, no, like I'm actually gaining like people who I'm like, no, like that's somebody I would be friends with. Like, they treat me like family. They're always, hurting when I'm hurting, or like they're spilling out their things. And so for me, this particular situation has been so difficult to navigate because I chat to them about everything, and I want to at times chat about what I've been going through in this relationship, but I've not been able to, because at the same time it's like your relationship should be private and you work through things privately.
correct.
And then when the time is right, or when you're ready, or when you've processed it, you come out.
Right.
And that's what I'm doing now. And I want them to know that too, that I'm coming out at the time where I've processed it and I know it's the right time to break this off. And I'm just ready.
Yeah. I
to
mean,
go
when you're
on.
in a relationship, it's always going to be complicated.
Yeah, and it's you and that person.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the type that likes to like chat to my friends like he done this, because I feel like friends and family, they hold on to that stuff that person's done. And so but they're never there with you like when those good moments are happening, or when you're meeting with that person's humanity. Like, they're not there for that. So they just hold on to the negative, and then it's just like they've always got something to say. And so I'm not the type to like say that kind of stuff. I just like to deal with it with my partner, especially if it's something I feel like I can deal with. But in this specific relationship, I felt like I was dealing with a lot more than I needed to by myself. And I was just feeling so like alone about it that I had to start telling my family. And then my family was like, why aren't you saying something? And I felt like it would get better. Like, it will get better, all get better. Because
Wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking, because he and I, like, we do have such a vibe, and that's what people saw. People could see it, people could feel it. Like, we had a vibe, we really, really did. And so I think the things that I'm about to say are things that people just can be like, no way, you just have no idea. Like, that's what's going on in the background. Do you know what I mean? And like, for me, because we do have such a vibe, whenever we were vibing, I would throw everything else out the window. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it just kept coming up. So, yeah.
So when you say these things that you like to say, like, what would they be? And, what is the timeline of this breakup? Like when you guys were in the villa and you guys had met and everything, how was that? And then how was that different to when you guys left?
Yeah. So in the villa, we were very, very lovey. And
Right.
everybody saw that. We just had such a connection. It seemed like such a powerful connection that just shouldn't be broken. And I felt that with him in there as well. And then when we came out, immediately the foundation that we were about to set was already rocky. Like it started out rocky. Immediately.
Okay.
And I think everyone who like follows me and has followed our journey will know exactly what I'm talking about, because he went to New York immediately after he got outside of the villa. And he told me he was going to go to New York, so that was fine.
Okay.
Like for me personally, I would have loved to even come to London a week after. So
Right.
I don't mind that. We've
Yeah.
spent 6 weeks on an island together. Like we're both very mature. Like it's not like, oh, I need to be up under you as soon as we leave. So that was very okay with me. But from the second that he left the villa, like we was in the hotel and his roommate came to come pick him up and, you know, had driven all the way from LA to come pick him up, even though we had been provided transportation to go back to LA. And then he didn't offer me a ride with his roommate. So even then I was like, that's fine. But I felt,
Different thoughts going on in your mind.
yeah, you're
Right.
just like, okay. Things are going to be different. We're outside of the villa. But you're just naturally like, that feels strange. It felt strange.
Right.
That's all I could say. I can't say it was this or it was that. It just felt strange. So I was like, all right, I'm going to let that go. And the rest of us, Sydney, Deb and I, we rode back to LA together on the train. We're on the train. Sid and Isaiah texting. Deb and Jessie texting. Like, carrying a vibe. And I'm just sat there and Timmy and I are not texting at all.
Right.
But because I'm such a person who needs a lot of space, even in relationships, like I didn't think too much of it. I just felt strange, but I didn't think too much of it. Do you know what I mean? But that was fine with me. We just got off the island. I knew how exhausted he was from the whole experience. Like I was like, I'm just going to give him, you know, breathing space. And then, you know, everyone online's like, they're the two that live in the same city. Like,
Right.
where is Zimmy? Where is Zimmy? Where is Zimmy? And I didn't care too much about that, just because I still felt like what we had was what we had. So I didn't care what people were saying, but I was just like, oh, it would be nice to give them something. So I offered him a ride to the airport when he was going to New York, and he just like dodged it. Yeah.
Okay.
He was like, okay, yeah, you can take me to the airport. And then he was like, I'm actually leaving tomorrow morning. And I was like, I don't mind. Like, I'll wake up at 6 a.m. and take you to the airport. Like, that's fine with me. And he was like, yeah, I might actually push my flight till later tomorrow because, like, I'm tired. I don't know if I'm going to make it early in the morning. So I'm like, okay, cool. Then the morning comes around. Then he texts me like 10 a.m. He's like, oh, I'm at the airport. I actually decided, like, I can go. Like, so I was like,
What's going on? Right.
that's strange.
Yeah, I mean, a girl's, especially as a girl's intuition as well, and you guys have been together.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because I understand, for me, it's like you're already going to New York, so you're going to have that time off. And we've been back in LA, I can't remember the amount of days, maybe like 4 or 5 days, maybe a week. I can't remember, but we've been in LA that long, and that's why people are like, they're in the same city, we've not seen anything. So I'm like, why can't I take you to the airport? Like, that's a nice thing. Like, that's a kind gesture. But again, I guess he wanted his roommate to take him. Him and his roommate are very, very close. So, yeah, I found that very strange. And then that week, he was very spacey with texting and stuff. And that's when I literally started talking to my spiritual dad, like my pastor. And I was just telling him, like, I really need prayer for this relationship because I want it to work. And I just could feel the arrows coming at our relationship.
The rift.
The rift, I could just feel it. So I was like, I really need, like, I'm a spiritual person, so I was like, this is a relationship that people are going to be like chatting shit about, want to end, or just praying for its downfall. Like, as much as we have Zimmy gang who loves us, there's always people who are like, oh, I can't wait till that.
It's a lot of baggage you're dealing with. You're dealing with the baggage of these internal rifts that you might feel with him.
Yeah.
And then the expected baggage of, you know, the public. And then it's like, you know, you're confiding in your pastor or your mother. And it's just like, where do you go and cope to the point where you feel safe?
Yeah.
And that level of safeness you're not promised. So you're just like riling through when it comes to anxiety.
And the one person you want to get that safety in is the person who's causing
the rifts and the ruptures, right?
So like, I'm sat there like, Timmy's the only person I want to talk to right now about what I'm going through, but he's the person like causing it. So I'm like, oh my God. So, you know, my pastor tells me, it's just something we need to pray about. Like, when he gets back, I just like, don't think too hard. Like, you've just come off the island. He needs time, So that's fine. He's being a bit like spacey with text messaging and stuff. And I'm just like, okay. And then he sets me up to meet with his sister. So I thought, well, that's nice. Like, he needs space, but he's like, meet my family. Like, you lot chat. And then when we get back, like, we'll just get back on track. And my meeting with her was not something that I enjoyed.
Really?
No. It was not something that I enjoyed. And I might come back to the contents of that meeting.
Sure.
But I didn't enjoy it.
Why didn't you enjoy it?
I didn't like what was said.
Right, okay.
At the meeting. But I just kind of played along with it because I was like, at this point, I need to get through this meeting with his sister. And then when he comes back from New York and I get to look into his eyes and see the same guy, then I will like see how I feel from there because it's about me and him at the end of the day. So again, I'll come back to that if, you know, it circles around to that, or it might be something that I talk about like more privately.
Sure.
But so he came back from New York and I met with his humanity and the Timmy that I, you know, really cared for in the villa. And then we were good. Like, we were like, okay, we're going to move forward. Despite what this conversation I had with his sister was, I was back with Timmy. So I was like, okay, like, he already said in the villa, like, he moves very sloth-like in relationships and stuff. And I've never been one to put pressure on a guy. I just think if you are in love or whatever, like, things will naturally flow.
Right.
So I'm not going to put pressure on you to like move fast or tell me you love me or anything like that. So yeah, we just started moving, grooving, doing what we do. But I just felt like a disconnect with him. I just kept avoiding that disconnect. It's so strange to like look at someone and be like, I know you. Do I know you? Like, that back and forth
is hard.
Because then you're like questioning yourself, like you're questioning your own intuition. You're like, no, I'm thinking too hard or whatever. Because with him, he's so good with verbal. Like, everybody knows that. Like, he's got great chat. So, you know, I would always, even if I felt something was strange, I would always come back to like, oh, it's okay, because like how he would chat to me, I'd be like, okay, yeah, we're good, it's fine. But just with time, I just would see like little things that I was like, that's so strange. Like, he told me, he was like, you're used to people treating you a certain way, and like, I'm not going to do that.
Okay, that's a bit off in terms of how would you question. You then begin questioning yourself.
Yeah.
In terms of, okay, like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because we only just met in the villa.
Yeah.
So
I'm like, how do people treat me? Like, with respect and stuff. And I still till this day don't know what he means, but he's said that more than once. And it's always been from a place of, I'm not going to treat you the way they do.
Right.
If you think you're going to get like that type of treatment from me, like it's not. He would always be like, you've met your match. He would always say that. And he says he's joking, but I just was like, what do these things mean? Like there was an undertone that I was always feeling. I'm like, what is that? And just with time, I realised that he was very uncomfortable with my light. And it really, really started in the villa when that tweet happened. There was this tweet that said something along the lines of, Zeta's in first class and he's in coach.
This was read out to you guys on the
This
show.
was read out to, yeah. We read it out and then the islanders had to guess who it was.
And you think from then,
I
positioning.
just remember like the feeling. I just remember, because even when it was said, I was like, fuck. Like, I just know how that would make a man feel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a tweet. It's just like da-da-da. But words hurt. They cut. They do something to you,
Yeah.
whether you want to admit it or not. And so, of course, like he acted like he was fine and all of that. But I just remember after that tweet, like, following that on the island, people would always come up to him and say things like, oh, you're so lucky, like, aren't you lucky to have Zeta? And I would just be like, oh, don't say that, because I just started feeling this energy from him. Like I felt like he was just getting so tired of hearing that, you know, kind of like, I'm somebody too, why do you guys keep being like this girl?
Right.
Which I do understand, but where I'm at in life, I'm just ready for like someone who is just like chuffed about their woman being talked about like that. Like when people give him compliments, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that he gets to feel that way and know that he's desired and like.
And it should be reciprocated.
1,000%.
Right.
1,000%. And like in the public eye and like in everything, he's so like calm and behaves as if he's that person, but he wasn't treating me like such. Like I feel like your person should be the person who gasses you more than the public and your family and everyone. Like they just want to lift you up all the time and just see you be like your best self. And I felt like he was like, you get enough of that from everyone else,
So you don't need it from me.
so you don't need it from me.
But you would want it from the person you.
But that's who I wanted it from, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was always a very uncomfortable feeling. And I remember the same feeling started when that tweet happened in the villa. And then just afterwards, it just like, I felt like that was the undertone every time. So even when it comes to like messaging me back and stuff, like communication was extremely difficult for him. And I told him, I was like, this isn't going to survive if the communication is going to be this bad. Like, it's just not going to work.
No.
You could be an amazing person, and if we're not able to communicate, like,
It's just not going to work.
it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
And so he would always be like, I know communication is my issue, but, you know, da, 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 da. And I'm like, but babes, like,
It's not working between us.
it's not working. So that was like a massive, massive thing. Like his communication is just really off. Like he could go 3 days without texting me.
3 days. It's a lot.
I'm used to chatting with my person, like, even if we don't go in depth or hop on the phone, I'm used to being like, man, like, I had some sushi today. It was so bad from da, 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 da. Like you have these just little things that you're just, and I think that's what the public thinks of our relationship, that it is very just like talking all the time and like, you know, FaceTiming and going back. And it's like, that's not how it was at all. Like,
So you felt ruptures within the villa, as you said, like disconnects.
yeah.
And then when you came out as well, there were disconnects when
Yeah.
certain like going to the airport or being in New York and then the meeting with the sister as well, there were disconnects. Were there, what happened after that? Were there continued,
Yeah.
you know,
So,
situations going on?
yeah. So we went to London.
Right.
So that was a very like big moment, you can say.
Yeah, you're going to go see the parents.
Going to the parents, you're literally going across the pond.
Yeah.
Like
and
it's
this far from LA.
yeah,
11 hours.
it's far. And he was like very happy to go.
Right.
And we were just in a very good place, like you know, apart from all those little things that you're just like, for me, I'm like, okay, this is relationships. Like, you're feeling funny, but like, just see. Like, I don't like throwing in the towel. Like, my pastor won't let me do it. My mum won't I really want to be married one day. And I believe in that old school, like, don't just throw things out because, you know, it's not looking exactly how you want it to look.
Right.
So he was very happy to come to London. And the day before we leave for London, he's like, oh, my sister's coming to London. And I'm like, oh. Then I'm like, oh, well, do you know what? That's actually quite cool.
Yeah.
Like, she'll
Why
get
wouldn't
to,
it be?
yeah, like she'll get to come meet my family and stuff. Like, that's amazing. And we hop on the plane, and then the moment we land, he's like, oh, my sister gets here tomorrow. And it's just one of those things where you're just like, okay, you know this stuff, but you're communicating it to me very like
Late.
Yeah. And it's just like, what's the reason for that?
Yeah.
There has to be a reason.
Yeah.
Like, I want to continue giving you the benefit of the doubt, but how many am I going to give? How many am I going to give? So he says that, and I'm naturally like, she gets here tomorrow. Okay, cool. And then I think it ends there. And then he's like, I'm going to be staying with her, like, when she comes. And I was like, oh, okay.
And you didn't know that until he told you?
No.
Okay.
Like, we had landed, and then he's like, oh yeah, by the way. So I'm sat there like, okay. I'm like, so I asked him, I'm like, so am I going to be like driving to meet up with you every day? Like, even though we've come, and it's like, it's a Zimmy trip. It really is. Like, you came to come meet my family, but it's like, the public wanted to see and meet my family and see the whole London trip. So it was a trip for us. But I was happy, you know, his sister was coming, but for him to say he was going to stay with her, I was like, okay. Like, I remember saying like, what am I going to tell my family? I feel like that's embarrassing to be like, he's not staying with me. And so then I asked him, I was like, why didn't you tell me this sooner? I feel like you, me and your sister could have gotten even like an Airbnb, and we're like, all day, whatever, just to like, you know, you're not there separate and I'm over here separate.
There's no disconnects.
Yeah, there's no disconnects. And he's like, my sister doesn't like that. Like, fine, that's fine. You want your private space, like, I get it, that's fine. So I'm just kind of taken back from that. And then we have the podcast to do. And that was another big reason that we came. And he's like, oh, well, I'm not going to be there for 10 days. I'm going to be in London for 7 days, actually. So now in my mind, I'm like, okay, and 3 days have also been cut off the trip. So I'm like, this is all stuff you should have communicated to me.
Really bad communication.
Exactly, but he doesn't see that, like, he's just like, okay, so I communicated late, whatever. But he doesn't understand, like, it's like those things, like, they affect other things. So I'm like, well, you know, we have the podcast thing, which is like another huge reason we came. So you absolutely have to make that. And he's like, yeah, maybe I can see if I could get like one more day out here. And so for me, I was just like, I'm so confused. You knew that was one of the main reasons we came, but now you're leaving on the day that interview happens. Like, so I'm already just feeling like
conflated
and frustrated. And then of course I'm just expressing my frustration to him, and he's like, oh, you're so entitled. He always used that on me. And I was like, damn, like, am I?
You start questioning your own self-worth as a person.
Oh my goodness. Like, Murad, like,
throughout the whole situation.
And this is something that has happened throughout the whole relationship, where I've second guessed myself like multiple times.
It's a lot.
And so I'm sat there like, okay, so maybe I shouldn't be upset. Like, am I being one of those girls? But then I'm like, no, like, this is just like very common sense to me. So I'm like, okay, so I ask him, I'm like, would you stay with me like a couple of days as well? Like, I feel like that's such a sad question. And he's like, yeah, like I can do that. So I'll spend some days with her and some days with you. I'm like, okay, cool, fair enough, that's fine. But we get out and we're obviously just already like on an off note right before we go meet my mum and stuff. But we get through it. Him and I are able to just like bounce back after things happen all the time, which is something that I consider a very powerful thing to have in relationships, to be able to just like
move on.
And we do that we did that very well. So I think that's another reason why it's come to this. It's lasted this long, even though it's been quite short in the grand scheme of things. So we go, like, meet my mum, all that kind of stuff. Everything is great. Like, my mum loved him. Sure, he's just like such a sweet guy, and you know, she could still see that chemistry that she saw with us in the villa. So it's like, I want that to definitely be a point, so people know, like, it's not just all the stuff that I'm saying that is quite uncomfortable to talk about. If it were just that, it wouldn't have lasted this long. I would have broken it up like that, because I don't play that at all. And I'm very serious about finding my husband and like nurturing strong relationships. So my mum really liked him and everything was great. And then his sister lands the next day. So it's like 4 a.m. in the morning and we're laying down and he gets a text, of course. And he leaves to go to Heathrow to go like take care of her. And so I wake up and I text him. I'm like, hey, you all right? Like, I really wish you would have told me, because I could have taken you. Like, that's just how I am. Like, we're together. You're in my city. Like, I need to help you. Like, but it's fine. Like, maybe he's prideful. And he said that. He doesn't like people helping him and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but he's in London. He's in your city. Like, you know, you should be together. Like, this is what a relationship is. This is what I mean. You second guess things. And then
Thank you for saying that, because even to this day, I still second guess
right.
myself.
And then that helps to facilitate your lack of self-worth. And you're just like, you know, I'm bothering this person. And it's like, well, no. When you're in your next relationship, you then realize what was missing and what should have happened.
Yeah.
But you don't understand that initially because you're going through it. And it's harder for you to see it once you're going through it. Everyone outside can see it and let you know, but even then you still can't process things, because you have to, you're in it, you're in the thick of it, and you're in the thick of your emotions, and it's easier said than done. So did that continue on the London trip? Was there anything else in regards to that?
So basically he's with his sister and I'm just texting him like, how can I help? So he's like, oh, the Airbnb fell through. So I'm naturally like, oh my God, like, I can help. I had actually gotten Timmy and I a hotel, which, because he didn't communicate to me, like, I wouldn't have gotten it if I knew he was going to stay with his sister and blah, 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 whatever. So I had a hotel. We ended up staying at my mum's because we were just like vibing. We ended up staying at my mum's. So I had a hotel. So I was like, hey, your Airbnb fell through. Like, that place that I paid for is just, it's just sat there. Like, I can come take you and drop your sister off there. They denied it. So I was like, okay. So I go and chat to my mum and I'm like, Mum, and she's like, your uncle literally like manages hotels around London and he could get them into a spot. And he wanted to, like, he was like, they're here, like, let me take care of them. So I offered that to him and they denied it. So I'm like, okay, they just want to do things themselves. Like, that's fine. He's like, oh, the Airbnb actually like came through. They say at 11 o'clock we'll be able to check in. So it's fine. It's like about 6 a.m. at this time. So I'm like, oh, do you lot want to come over here?
And wait.
Not wait at the airport. Denied coming over.
That's crazy.
So that's like my third thing that I've been denied of trying to help.
And it's like you're some stranger on the street. Like you ain't his girlfriend. What's going on here? Because I'm going to get mad, because that doesn't make any sense to me. Because it's just like, what do you mean deny? Like, who am I to be texting? Like, am I a stranger texting?
Like, he was always just like, oh, no, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. But like, we're good. We're sorting it out. So it's one of them ones like, I don't want to keep probing. But
then you feel like you're bothering someone.
Exactly. But at the same time, it's not in me or my family's blood to not be like, we are here to help. Like, so my fourth attempt, I say, okay, like, you lot are going to be there for like quite a while. Can I come have breakfast with you two? Like, can I come there? And like, it's like, no. Like, no.
Wow.
And I think it was that very moment where all of the little tiny like doubts that I've like had because I felt uncomfortable, I feel like that's when it started going like, it was about to reach the climax of me being like, something is definitely dodgy in this relationship. I don't know what it is, but something is dodgy.
Yeah, because you're,
you know?
I mean, yeah, you're literally after being denied at the airport, you're just like, can I go have breakfast with you guys? And they're just like, no.
No. Then they say the Airbnb, like, I get a text maybe at like 9 or 10. That's like, oh, the Airbnb fell through and they're going to refund us our money, but we found another hotel. So I'm like, okay, like, they've just been doing their own thing. They don't want me involved. They want to sort it out themselves. Like, if that's the case, it's fine. Don't want me to come have breakfast, it's fine. So he's like, I'll meet you after I sort her out. So I'm like, okay, fine. Sorts her out, and then he comes back home, and again, we're cool. I'm just like, let it go. Like, let it go. I'll see his sister sometime this week. Like, she'll see my family sometime this week. Let it go. It's not that serious. And the week goes by, and she never comes to come see my family. And so I'm like, okay, like, my mum tells him when he's over, she's like, do you want to invite her over? Like, or is she okay? Like, you know, just like, especially like African mums, they're like, is she okay? Is she being taken care of? Is she enjoying her? Like, was like, you know, but they were very just like private. So we just let it go, really. But it was very, very strange. And she has never, like, I asked her to give me her phone. I called her one time. She was busy. She didn't answer. And she texted me, she said she would call me back. And then she never did. So already I was like, she's not trying to, like, have that sister vibe other than that one meeting we had. And so it's just so much to, like,
Process.
yeah.
I was going to ask you right now, I just have a quick question for you, but how are you feeling right now?
Right now, I feel so free, like, letting this all out. I've been so, like, anxious about it.
I could imagine.
Like, I've been so happy since leaving the villa, and I've just felt like all these little things that have continued to happen into the relationship have just tried to diminish that happiness. And it's been so annoying for me because I've wanted to focus on just this major blessing that has come my way. And I felt so ungrateful because I'm always, like, waking up with this pit of anxiety. Like, every morning I'd be waking up, like, anxious. And so right now I feel so free because I feel like as soon as this is just, like, done with, like, I can actually go back to, like, my joyous, appreciating my blessings self, you know? So yeah, she didn't see my family. She didn't try to chat to me. She didn't even text me and say, like, hey, like, I'm in your city. I'm busy doing other things, so I might not be able to see you, but, like, just saying hello, tell the family hi, something like that. Just, it's so small. I got nothing like that. And next thing I know, I'm on Twitter and I get a tweet from her. I'm like, this is how this girl is choosing to speak to me.
What was the tweet?
The tweet was a picture of her in a hotel. And she was basically, like, dumbfounded by why the shower was so small. So she took a picture and she was like, is this a shower for hobbits? Zeta, can you explain this? So when I saw that tweet, I was naturally just, like, really upset because I'm like, you've not chatted to me at all. You don't text me. You don't want to come see my family, nothing. But then the one time you try and communicate with me is on a public forum, on a space like Twitter, and you're chatting shit about, like, basically, like, my country.
Right.
Like that's, like, let's be real here, that's what you're trying to do. You're chatting shit about my country. Like, and you're tagging me as if I put you there.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
I think that part is more like, if the shower's small and she's talking about that, then it is what
That's
it is. But
fine.
it's the part where it's just like,
Which is like, Zeta, can you explain this? And I'm sure, like, for me, everything that she has said or done has not been, like, malicious to me. So I'm not trying to, like, you know, paint her in any light. I'm just telling the truth about how I felt about her actions. So she tags me in that. And so, like, I go tell my mum and I'm like, oh my gosh, mum, this is so embarrassing. People are going to think, like, she's here. And I put her in that space when I literally offered her, like, the finest of hotels in London and she's denied it.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
So my mum was like, oh my God, like, that's very uncomfortable. And my mum doesn't like that at all. So my mum, like, gives Timmy a ring and she's like, hey, like, is your sister comfortable where she's at? like
Because your mum is trying.
yeah, she's like, we have very nice hotels that like her uncle has that we can put you in. You guys won't have to spend a penny. Like, we can take care of you. I want her experience to be nice. And he didn't know about the tweet, and so he's like, that's terrible. I'll have a chat with her. And my mum's like, okay, like it's not like some upset thing. Like even my mum would like to chat to her, but like he hangs up the phone. And then he calls my mum back and he's like, hey, yeah, sorry, the phone hung up. Like, I will have a chat to her. Like, that was wrong for her to like tweet that or whatever. And they get off the phone. And my mum was just like for me personally, like if my little brother was dating a girl and I tweeted something and then the girl's mum was like, felt uncomfortable with it. At my grown age, you better believe I'm picking up the phone and chatting to my brother's girlfriend's mum and being like, I'm so sorry. Like, I really was just like trying to have a laugh but no call. Like,
Wow. Nothing. It's a lot because you're dealing with the baggage and disconnect from Timmy as time goes on. But then, of course, you got, his sister and there's things going on there. And it's like, how are you now juggling both, let alone your own emotions and feelings? And it's like, how are you juggling all three, let alone then your mother or your parents who are just confused and you're all the way in London. And then it's like, how are you dealing with this public tweet as well? And how do you react to that? So that in itself just seems a bit confusing.
And you're just dealing with it like all by yourself. Because like your family's asking you questions about his and her behaviour and I can't explain it. And that's the thing that kept happening in the relationship is that I just had to have so many excuses for him. And then at that time, his sister as well. And even my mum was getting upset with me. She's like, maybe you're not offering the help correctly.
Right.
Like my mum was even coming at me. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like I'm dealing with people who really want to keep their distance from me.
And it's hard for you to navigate that publicly, let alone privately.
Like it was just, I just felt like the walls were just closing in on me. But then, of course, I'm second guessing myself. Like, am I making this more of a thing than it is? And that's when I was like, I'm really losing myself here because I'm always second guessing my intuition, which is something that I just don't do. Like I've said on the island several times, and so many of my mates and the islanders will say, like, Zeta's gut really does not miss. It's something I feel extremely confident about because when I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. But when I feel something, I know it. And so in that relationship was when I just started questioning that gut feeling. And I was like, this is a very dangerous space to put myself in. So yeah, she tweets that, she doesn't call back, whatever. Meet up with Timmy again, like we're doing the dance, things are fine, there's an uncomfortable feeling, get over it, things are fine, like just doing that dance. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just thinking like, as everyone knows, like marriage is something that I'm very passionate about and something that I definitely want. I don't care if it happens when I'm 40, but I'm now in that state where I want to begin manifesting that. And I even said that on the island, like I'm looking for my husband. I didn't think that I would find my husband on the island, but if you want something, you need to believe in that something.
Correct.
Before it can come to pass. So I went in with that mindset and that energy. Upon meeting him, like naturally he wasn't the person who I like have like pictured all my life like being my husband for many reasons other than just like physically. He's an attractive person, very attractive person, so that's not what I'm saying, but just like in the grand scheme of who I picture my husband to be, it wasn't someone like him. But I was like, God's given me this amazing opportunity. You don't know like how you're going to meet your person. Like maybe that is the way you were going to meet him. I'm open to that being a thing.
Right.
So I wanted to give that relationship like 100%, like spiritually, like I wanted to really give myself 100% in that relationship with him. And even spiritually, I'm like, that's not my person because I really love God like so much. Like God is just a part of all my conversations and it's not that way for him. Like I want a partner who's like praying for me. Like, oh, you went through something today. Like, don't worry, babe. Like I'm praying for you. Like you'll be all right. Like, I want someone like that. And I mean, I think he's mentioned God maybe like once, like, And that's fine. But for me, like, I want somebody who, like,
Spiritual.
is very spiritual. And even just recently, we had like a small argument, and he said something about he was like, you and like, because you're so spiritual and you feel like you have this third eye. And I was just like, that's when I was like, are you mocking like the one thing that connects me to like myself?
Right.
And I know he probably didn't even like mean it, but I'm like, that's the last thing I want to hear from like someone I consider like I'm thinking about, I want to like marry. That's the last thing I want to hear.
So do you feel used in this whole relationship process? And it sounds like a lot of disrespect.
There was so much disrespect.
You left London and you went back to LA and stuff.
And I was like working here, and I had to go to the British Fashion Awards and things like that. So I had things to do in London.
Right.
But I'd be lying to you if I said that I didn't stay in London even longer, because I was really trying to process how I felt about going into a family where I don't hear from your mum, I don't hear from your dad, I don't know anything about them. And the one family member that I do know, your sister, is obviously not trying to communicate
Yeah.
or have a relationship. She's
At
come
all.
all the way to my country. And so I'm in London just being like, is that something I would want? I don't know if this is something that takes time. He's never invited me to New York. So I'm like, seemingly he wants to keep his family separate. And I'm like, how can I build a relationship with someone and I don't know anything about his family, and his family doesn't seemingly want to know much about me? So then I'm like, okay, maybe this was just a reality show thing, like which is fine.
Is it though? Because it's playing with your emotions and your mental expense, like a reality show thing, in that, you know, that he may not have been into you from whilst you were in the villa, and perhaps there was some kind of plan, and that it sounds like to me it kind of just foiled through when coming out, because, you know, if you were genuinely interested in somebody, it wouldn't have gone this way from when you immediately leave the villa as well. And then there's no supportive network from his side that is coming towards you. And then even your mother's confused, you're confused, and then you're doubting yourself. It sounds like a heavy amount of emotional turmoil. And it's like, where do you even begin? Where do you even end? And then, of course, you have the public who are like, you know, you want to be as transparent with them, but then how can you when you haven't solved things privately, because you don't even know what's going on privately?
Don't know what's going
It's like you're going in this relationship with a blindfold, and you can't see which direction you're going in, but because you have that trust in somebody, and because you like somebody, and you have that wishful thinking, it's like you're waiting for it to be reciprocated, and you don't know when it is. Then you're like, are you going to give the person time? Person needs space. You know, maybe they would change here and there. Like, and I feel like, you know, if you had let this go on for years, then it'll be like, you know, Zeta, you could have left early, even though it's way harder than people think. It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Way easier said than done.
Yeah.
But, you know, I feel like it's very difficult to remove yourself from something like that.
So difficult.
Way difficult than people might believe. They'll be like, why don't you just leave? And it's like, it's really hard. Listen, I think that you're a really good person.
Thank you.
I feel like you have a very good heart, and I feel like you have such good energy as well. And I don't know how you could go through something like that, but I feel like life has given you seeds that have been very difficult to sow, and you've allowed them to just flourish.
Yeah.
And I feel like you've overcome situations in your life that you may thought you never could have.
Yeah.
So this is something that, you know, is something that I knew you would overcome.
Thank you.
Because you're a good person, babes.
Yeah, I feel like I was getting robbed of that feeling with him, and I don't think he was intentionally trying to do it, but yeah, I was getting really robbed of that feeling. Like that feeling that a lot of people give to me and say that they admire in me. Like, I didn't get that from him.
In any regards? Mm-mm. Was there anything else that took place prior to, you know, confirming mentally that you want to break away from this person, that you felt that happened? Or was that just the majority of the timeline of everything of what
Yeah,
took
I
place.
think to that specific question, I will go more into detail about that on my private forum.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to cry.
Are you okay?
I don't even want to like cry for him.
No, you're not crying for him, babes.
Yeah.
I feel like you're a very good person. You've got a good heart, and that's what matters. Don't make me start crying, child. But I feel like you've got a good heart. Do we have some tissue? Sorry, do you have some tissue? You're a good person.
Yeah. Like, thank you so much. Oh, you're so kind. My mom's gonna be like, oh, she's crying.
No, but it's emotion. Life's not easy, bro.
Yeah.
Life is very difficult, and it throws shit your way, and you don't know how to, you know.
Sorry, I just don't want to look like a.
No, you look
complete
fine.
mess.
You look fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me give you a hug quickly. Oh my days, babes. I don't want to see you cry, man.
Nah, it's all
I
right.
really don't want to see you cry.
Yeah. I just feel I just feel so sad because of like the Zimmy fans, like they have done so well. They're just arguing with
Yeah.
the haters. Like they've just been so lovely, and I've needed that support, and Timmy needed that support, especially. He has a very hard time with putting out content for the public. Like he let me know that he was having a very tough time with the relationship being public and his flaws being magnified. But I always sympathised with him for that, you know, and I'm always the one that would make sure, because I don't have a problem chatting to the fans. If I don't want to answer a question, I won't answer it. But at the same time, they voted us into this position because they truly believed in what we had, and so did I. And so, like, I'm with them when it comes to this whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it from a bird's eye view, I don't feel like you've, you know, falsified or lied in any way. You were dealing with your own internal anguish and battles, and you were trying to like keep this going because you felt like something was there in terms of wishful thinking, which we all do, especially if you have feelings for somebody, which it felt like you had tremendous feelings for this guy, and it just didn't go your way, and you're continuously second guessing, and you're like, what did I do wrong here, and then of course you have the love from the fans, and it's just like you don't want to disappoint, and you don't want to disappoint yourself, and it's like, how do you even stay on board? Like, there's no manual or guide to stay on board. You just do what you think is best. And I don't think, you know, that you have any malicious bone in your body. And I feel like you genuinely had love for this person, and it wasn't reciprocated, and you didn't know how to deal with it because time was going on. And I feel like you're a good person. I feel like you've overcome different life battles prior to even stepping foot into Love Island.
Yeah.
So if you had overcome stuff like that,
Yeah.
this is something that I know that you will overpower and definitely overcome, because I feel like you're a very strong person from hearing the story. And
It's just so like you're doing something which I told my mum is actually really, really like sad to say. You're doing something that is really giving me that confidence, and I'm hearing you and I'm like, that's so true, that's so true. But it was never like that way with him. Do you know what I mean?
right.
And you talk about like, you know, I've been through so much. There is so much. Like I'm writing an autobiography. I want people to really like know the things that I've been through that have made me become this person that they seem to admire. And with him, like we could never get deep. Like I wanted to tell him what I've been through. Like I wanted to, and it's just like he just was not there. Like, he didn't want to. Like he wouldn't entertain me. You know when someone chats to you and you're just like, wow, so that like what happened? Wow, I can't believe you've been through that. Like that was not our story at all. Like I always wanted to know more about him, what makes him him.
There was just like a block.
A block.
A
like,
wall.
he would just be sat there looking at me and just kind of, it's kind of like you're entertaining like a toddler, you know, where you're just like, oh, right, okay, yeah, okay. But you have no questions to go any further. Like, I remember him telling me one time, like, oh, we'll get there. Like, we'll get there about, you know,
X, Y, and Z.
X, Y, and Z.
And you just kept running into that wall, and it was always
Every
a dead end.
time. Like, I was like, well, I don't think he ever wants to go past
Right.
that. And then, you know, then you have like his family member who I'm like, okay, like there's just so many blocks where I'm like, if I'm thinking about wanting to be like married one day, this is not how I would imagine it to start off and how I would imagine it to go.
Right.
You know, and so as you said, like it does feel like there was motive prior to coming on the island. And then, you know, he says he's never watched the show, fair enough, but he was supposed to go on season 3. So for me, I'm like, okay, so you were going to go on the show and you never once like tried to see what it was about. Then you tried to get on again on season 4. Like, and, you know, for me, it just feels like it was an orchestrated thing. And he told me he didn't anticipate being on the island for over 2 weeks. Like, he really thought he would just pop in and pop out. And so, like, meeting me, which is something I do believe him, he says he never thought he would meet somebody like me, like someone of my, like, class and caliber. That's, like, when he gave that compliment, I was like, I really believe you when you say that. Because it makes sense why now you're just like running from the whole thing totally.
Right.
And I think it makes so much sense when I asked week 1 on the island, like he was saying so many sweet things that people didn't see, which he did admit on an interview. He was like, yeah, we made so much headway, which is why I asked him that question. Because like, this guy is like chatting all this stuff to me, like, could you see us like outside? Like, you're saying all this stuff, like, could you see?
It's not transpiring.
Yeah. Could you see that? And that's when, like, on the island, he got very uncomfortable. He started telling other islanders, like, she was asking that question too soon. And for me, I look back and I'm like, oh, it's because he knew, like...
You have the memories, and now
the memories all start reminding me, like, of, you know, like, oh, it's all making sense. Like, you never planned to come out and have this public relationship. And he said, like, he didn't anticipate what it would be like to be in a public relationship. But for me, when you're truly with someone... It's not that hard. For me, it might be, public relationships are definitely difficult, but for me, like the content that people want, like naturally, if you're in my kitchen and I just take a quick picture of you and give it to the fans, they're satisfied.
Right. I don't think anything's that hard if there's genuinity, if there's genuine love for each other.
Exactly.
Everything will just flow.
Exactly. And for him, like for it to just be like such a difficult thing, then I'm like, then being with me must already be...
Hard enough.
That's
where the lack of self-worth, the depreciation takes place, and you're chipping away at yourself as time goes on.
Exactly.
There was some kind of song that was written as well, I believe, from him, and he obviously mentioned you.
Yeah.
I think this was quite recent.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like that was a breadcrumb moment. I say that because... The reason why this relationship has even sustained this long is because he's very good at giving you breadcrumbs. Like I would be starving and then he would give me a breadcrumb and I would be like, okay, like, well, that's sweet, right? Like I'm just dealing with someone who we need to work through the adversities. It's not something I don't need to be in this relationship. It's like I care about him enough. And he says he cares about me. So literally when I got back from London, I was like, okay, I'm going to give the month of January to just see if maybe me being in London also like for that long has like caused more, like let me see. And it's just same old, the breadcrumbs and just, you know, like I was not a priority in his life. Like he was always telling me about like his business. He wants to focus on his podcast. He wants to focus on da-da-da. And I'm like, do you know, I've dated plenty businessmen who still have time for their girl. So I don't know why that was just such a heavy excuse for him. Like he just wants to focus on his businesses and like, you know, the things that he's doing, those are his number one priorities. And I just feel like you've gone on an island, you've gotten 50K, like you've presented this love story, you've called me your person, the one, you've said all, what, like why all that extra stuff? So were you putting on a show?
So I would like to be very exclusive with you outside of this. And she motivates me to be the man I want to be each day here.
I'm buzzing. Comforting me. It just makes me foreshadow just like what I really want in a boy. Because for you to say all of that and then the relationship be like this behind closed doors.
It's wild. It truly is wild.
So like, are you lying?
Was it all just a game?
Was it all just like, and then your sister doesn't help the situation. you know? And, you know, like their mum is a dark-skinned woman, and he told me, like, you know, like my sister loves dark-skinned women, da, 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 da. And I just don't even know, because I just feel like if you love dark-skinned women, your mum's a dark-skinned woman, you would be proud to see somebody like me who is loved and admired by people, who is a dark-skinned woman who typically doesn't get that respect and that kind of, you know, admiration.
Right.
In you know, in the days that we live in, like, you would think that you would be happy about that. And for some reason, it's just always felt like there was an internal competition. Like, even if I would post like a brand deal or something, like, he would always make sure to be like, oh, I see you do it. Never ask me like truly how I'm doing. He would go off of Instagram, be like, oh, I see you posting all these brand deals. You seem like you're doing really well. And I'm like, is my boyfriend telling me that I seem like I'm doing really well? Like, I could see you post 50,000 brand deals and I'll still be like, Murad, like, how you doing though? Like, you all right?
Like, what's going on?
What's going on? You all right?
Are
Like,
you
and then I would be like, if he was like, yeah, like, I'm good, I'm really happy, that I'd be like, oh yeah, I've seen you like posting this and this and that. Is that like, how's that going? That's amazing. Like, it would be like that. But for him, it's like, he would chat to me like a I don't want to say a fan, like just someone who was like just seeing my Instagram and chatting to me like that. And I was like, this is very uncomfortable, like very, very uncomfortable. So when I say that, you would imagine them having a dark-skinned mum to like be even just more of a team with me, or like respect who I was. Like, it just was very, very opposite, you know. And like I said, I will go more into depth about the conversation that I had with his sister, but I do remember one line that she said. She was like, yeah, I told Timmy, like, go for a dark-skinned girl. Like, America loves that. And, you know, he says, you know, when I told him about that, he's like, well, of course, like, my mum's dark-skinned. My sister loves dark-skinned women.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, great. But also, like, why don't she tell you to just go on the show and find who you really vibe with?
The America loves that is like,
of course, but
there have been previous relationships,
yeah,
even on Love Island, where, you know, things foil through, and then it's just like, well, it's similar to what has been echoed by his sister.
Yeah. And I don't know.
That's a whole different level of mental
and that's
anguish.
That's the kind of stuff where I never would have thought anything about it if so many other things didn't make me uncomfortable in the relationship. I would have even let that slide. You know what I mean? So it was just very, and you know, like, I don't take it away at all. Like, I know Timmy likes dark skin people. And I'm sure his sister does too.
Like,
just things where you're like, wait,
you're trying to
and then I
connect
heard
everything.
that, and then I heard this one thing, like,
Right.
blah, 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 and then she's not even trying to be like mates with me. So it's like, was the whole thing just like game plan?
And you were just a pawn.
Yeah, and he just like didn't know he was going to win. He happened to meet me, and I was pretty cool, and he enjoyed the experience with me then. But that's all he wanted it to be. That's what I feel like it was.
I mean, it sounds like you were used pretty from hearing this now. It seems like, and these comments are wild. Like, there's no word to really describe that. So that's why it's that level of anguish. Like, was I picked because of how I appear to be? Is that some kind of, you know, usage? I mean, it's happened before on shows and the formula's worked. So
and the formula's worked, babe.
It's worked via show. And, you know, is that why? And then it's like, how do you deal with that? That's a whole different level of anguish mentally on your own, let alone dealing with it privately or publicly with the fans, and who do you confide in, and et cetera, et cetera. So that in itself is just a lot to deal with. It sounds like you've been through a lot.
Yeah.
But here you are coming out, looking beautiful, looking gorgeous, come out shining.
Oh, stop.
Ain't nothing keeping you down.
Yeah, I want people to know, like, that's what's sad. I'm not sad about this.
You are an inspiration to many.
I'm just not sad about it at all. And like, you know, he was willing to continue on the relationship, whatever he thought was. I'm not staying in this. Are you joking? It's sad when you think you would date one of your exes again before you date him.
Right.
That's how I feel at this particular moment. Like,
yeah. Lord.
Yeah.
How are you feeling now?
I've dated men that are just really, really amazing.
Right.
People that like the public would be like, oh shit about, but I really cared about Timmy. So I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. But I felt like he was just like competing with the spotlight for me more so. And it was just very, very strange. Like we were not in a partnership. I couldn't, you know, he told me, you know, he's fighting with demons and all this kind of stuff. And I'm very sympathetic to that. But I feel like you said you were ready for a relationship. And I kept telling him, like, you were not. You just wanted to say that because you want to go on the show.
Right.
Because if you were really ready, you would come out and we would, like, fight these battles together. Because that's what you do. But he's not wanted my help with anything.
No union.
No union whatsoever.
Whew.
Yeah. So...
Whew. Sorry.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to deal with.
And I know everyone watching is just going to be like, holy shit. Like,
Right.
It's just, you know, because it's a very rip the Band-Aid off moment. But I felt like this was the only way I wanted to do it.
Right.
Like, and he wants to just put out a statement.
And without any transparency for the fans. Right.
He does not, like, he truly, this is another thing that really, really bothered me, is that I just feel like, I know. If you're running a business or you're doing anything, you need to care about your consumers.
Correct.
Otherwise, there is no business. And he's someone who doesn't think about the fans or the consumers of his stuff. And I'm just like, if you think about Love Island in the sense of Zimmy, like these people really cared about you. And he's even made comments like, what types of people watch these shows? And I'm like, the people that put 50 grand in your pocket and like support you because they think that you're in love. Those are the types of people that watch it and they're amazing. And I have like a few thousand of them on Zeta Confidential and they support you and they support his personal training program and like his podcast because they're like, this guy's like treating her so nicely and they give a shit about you. And I just would be so agitated by how he didn't give a shit about them.
Right.
And it just wasn't working because I was ending up talking for him all the time. But it's like this person doesn't feel the same way I feel towards you. I'm just like covering for him. And like in a partnership, I was okay with doing that if there was that love there with us. But then again, I'm feeling that disconnect between us two. So then I'm like, why am I kind of like the person who's representing and keeping everything like when you can care less? So like, honestly, like, God bless him with these businesses that he's now acquired a ton of followers, like bare followers now. Like, good luck.
But at what cost?
He says he would give it all away if he had to. And I was like, oh, but you can't take away like my hurt feelings and everything you put me through.
And the trauma.
And the trauma.
That comes from it.
You can't take that away.
Right, because
So I'm
trauma
glad
is very
that you
real.
would just
Right.
give it all tomorrow. But you have to know that you've, you know, put people in the crossfire.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's just a jargon.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know how anybody would even go through this in public eye. So I feel like you've done very well with it.
Yeah.
And I think you should be proud of yourself when you look in the mirror. I know you do anyways. And I know you're proud of
And I want to get back to that. I was just in a relationship where that was being really diminished.
And you will get back to that,
Like,
babes.
yeah.
You will get back to that. It's character rebuilding and it's about processing your emotional trauma.
Yeah.
Being with somebody who does not value you for what you deserve
Yeah.
as a person. And I can tell you now, straight up, you deserve far more
Thank
than that child. And I feel like when it comes, it will definitely come.
Yeah.
God willing, God blessing, it will definitely come.
Yeah, and I know it will. It's like
Of
I've
course it
always
will.
been that person that knows that kind of stuff.
Child, I mean, look
You
at
know.
you, girl. Like, it's coming. It might even come tomorrow. Or when you open this door.
Hit me up.
There
I'm
we go.
single.
There we go.
I know. I feel so bad for Zimmy. I know they wish, but I know that Zimmy gang is going to be just so happy that I've like.
Child, it's Zeta Gang.
It's Zeta
Okay?
Gang.
Not Zimmy Gang, child. We done changed the name.
We're done.
It's Zeta
The
Gang.
end of an era.
End of an era. But you know what? Zeta, we can't beat
You
her.
can't beat
Listen,
her.
you just can't beat her. Do you understand? When I saw you on that show, I was so happy that we had somebody who was just giving everything.
Thank
like
you.
everything.
Thank you.
No shade to anybody on your cast, but you were the only person I could remember.
Aw.
So I was like, okay, London girl, cool. She's
Yeah.
there, but she's really just speaking a speech.
Yeah.
I live for it. But
Thank you so much.
thank you so much for gracing me with your presence.
Of
Thank you for
course.
coming on. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
And thank you for just being an inspiration,
Yeah.
not only to other people, but also to me as well. And, you know, just inspiring me. Like, I just feel like you're just a great soul.
Right.
I feel like you really are. Like, I feel like you're really.
Thank you so much.
You're a good person, man.
Thank you.
Like,
Thank you.
and-
It was even hard for me, like, coming here to do this
Of
because I
course.
felt like I'm so connected to him, I don't think he's so connected to me, but I was so connected to him that I felt like I was even doing something wrong by coming here to do this. But I'm like, I can't just put out a statement to these people. These people really believed in what we had the same way I did. And I know that I would want to hear what happened. Like, what happened? What were we not seeing? Do you know what I mean? And that's why I'm here. Like, that's why I've done this. There's just so many little things. Like, he's even let me walk to my car by myself at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Child, not
downtown
2 a.m.
LA.
Not downtown LA.
Like,
downtown
just
LA.
But he's had mates stay over where he's made a bed for them.
Downtown LA.
Downtown
Like,
LA.
That's not.
I've
cute.
never stayed at his house. I've told him, like, do you want to stay over at my place because it's closer to your job? Never wants to stay over. Like, he'd always rather go home to his roommate. Like, the day he let me walk to my car in downtown LA at 2 a.m. and not say, like, hey, do you want to stay over? I feel like that was also just like
Another red flag.
oh yeah, well, I was like, okay. Like, it's one of those moments where I see so many women in emotionally abusive relationships or even physically abusive, and people are like, why aren't they leaving? Like, we can see it clearly.
And it's like you're not in the thick of it. And these
Exactly.
forms of abuse develop severe trauma.
Exactly.
And it rewires your brain. It's like, why aren't you leaving? Why aren't you bro, if you have not been through it, it's so difficult to relate. So I completely get what you're saying.
Yeah. And then you add the public eye, because I really would have left a
Right.
long time ago.
Right.
But you
right.
add the public eye.
It magnifies everything. And that really depreciates your mental to
my
a
days.
whole new level.
Oh my days, yeah. But the
Here you are.
other stuff, because there is so much more, like, I will be wanting to discuss, like,
Sure. On
privately.
your blog, which
On
will
blog,
all be in the link below. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I feel so free. I feel so free, and I just want everyone to know that, like, Zeta feels so free. So, like, I don't care what anyone's got to say.
Right.
I'm just so happy to be free from this situation, and
You deserve it, babes. And you deserve way better.
yeah,
You deserve way better.
definitely do, because I have so much to give.
Right,
and I
you
gave
are-
him so much as
you're-
well, and got none.
Child, that's
in
what they say.
return.
When you are a giver, the people who take don't
They
really
will
have a line.
take.
They don't have a
They will
restriction. They will
take.
just keep on taking.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like, this is good for you. And I feel like you'll begin to come back to life.
Yeah.
And what you deserve.
I already feel it.
Right. And you
Yeah.
deserve way better. And when you find that, which will definitely come because you're a beautiful person.
Thank you.
Inside and out times 2, then that person will come.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime, babes. Anytime. Daily and consistent.
Baby.
Baby. I was going to say daily and consistent, but child, I say so much shit. So inject it, whatever you want to say. Love Island,
do it.
baby. I don't
Love
know.
Island,
baby. Like, there's so much nonsense.
A classic.
Classic. But
classic.
thank you so much for coming on. Her blog will be below as well. Zeta, a Love Island winner, a Love Island legend. And we'll catch you guys soon for another pod. Thank you, man.
Do it.
Whew.